What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. I hope you're all having a great day. So today we are going to look into a recent reveal from Rian Johnson where he claims that his Star Wars trilogy, which had been announced before The Last Jedi ever came out, is still on. It's still happening. A lot of fans had assumed that it wasn't going to happen based on the backlash of The Last Jedi and on the fact that we hadn't heard anything about it. So I just pulled up this article. This one is, there's plenty of reports on it, but this particular one is from IGN. And Rian is quoted as saying, there's no dates or timelines because he has other projects going on, but it is happening. And that's all we know about it. So this is interesting. I know a lot of people who hate The Last Jedi and maybe don't like the sequels, period, are going to be angry at first when they hear this. A lot of people think that Rian Johnson wasn't a true Star Wars fan, that he didn't stay true, particularly to the character of Luke Skywalker. And, you know, you're entitled to think whatever you want to think, feel how you want to feel. I don't necessarily think that's true. I'm sure Rian Johnson, as well as J.J. Abrams, all these people are massive Star Wars fans. However, I get it. You guys have heard my thoughts on all of the sequel movies, The Last Jedi. In particular, I was not happy with it when it came out. So I'm not here to defend that movie or to defend any of the movies right now. I just want to talk about the potential that this project does have and why, even if you didn't like The Last Jedi, you shouldn't be so quick to judge this new project. Because first reason is the number one reason for me that the sequels failed for a lot of Star Wars fans is that they changed directors. I don't think they should have switched from J.J. Abrams to Rian Johnson and then back to J.J. Abrams or even to Colin Trevorrow like the original plan was. It should have been J.J. Abrams all along, or even Rian Johnson all along. It should not have been this seesaw, this back and forth, because even though J.J. was I forget, he played some role in the filming of The Last Jedi, a serious role, but he was not in creative control. It was all Rian Johnson. So he took this film in a completely different direction than J.J. had seen it going. And then Rise of Skywalker picked back up and Disney was like, hey, fix this mess, and JJ kind of just did kind of what he was going to do, the intention, like the things that he had planned out from The Force Awakens. He just tried to wrap that up while still honoring what Rian Johnson did with The Last Jedi. But if you give anybody full creative control over an entire trilogy, I mean, outside of Star Wars, although Rian Johnson doesn't have a ton of projects, he has a pretty good reputation. He had a good reputation coming into The Last Jedi. People were excited to see what he did. I haven't seen any other Rian Johnson movies, at least not that I know of, but I know that his reputation, people were anticipating a good movie with The Last Jedi, not just because it was Star Wars, not because of the setups of The Force Awakens, but because Rian Johnson was directing it. So if you give him full creative control and he has the vision of where this entire story is going to go from the beginning, it has the ability to turn out very differently. And plus, this is it's either going to be a project about some aspect of the Star Wars universe that we don't really know much about, so he'll have the freedom to do whatever he wants with it, or perhaps it will be about characters from the sequel trilogy. I don't really think they'll do that, but I have seen a few people who are very hopeful that Rian Johnson will be given some control over the character of Ben Solo and his story, whether it be before or after the sequel trilogy. I don't think that's going to be what they do. If that's the only way to see the return of our sequel characters, then fine. I want to see the return of Rey and Ben Solo and even, Finn and Poe. I want to see that story continued. So if that were the only way, sure, but I don't think that's going to be what they end up doing. I think Rian Johnson is going to have control over a completely unrelated story to the main Skywalker saga. And if that's the case, there's no reason for us to believe that this won't be a good story. Rian Johnson, I mean, he's a professional. He's a capable storyteller. I just think this whole thing about, switching directors between movies was a really bad idea from the start. Again, I enjoy the sequel trilogy. I'm happy with it. I think everything turned out okay. But it doesn't matter. I mean, even when The Force Awakens came out, I was so happy with The Force Awakens that I was disappointed that they were switching directors before I even knew who Rian Johnson was. I was like, why would they do that? JJ should just have control over it all. And if that had been the case, I think we'd have a little more continuity. But again, that's not what we're here to talk about. So I just wanted to let you guys know that apparently this story is still on. I'll be looking forward to it. I want to see what Rian Johnson can do when he's given full creative control. It will be interesting to see what direction this thing goes, and it will also be, I think it's more fair. This is a fair opportunity for Rian Johnson, if this does indeed happen, for him to showcase his knowledge of Star Wars and his love as a fan, because there's no expectations. There's no prior attachments to any of these characters. You know, the big issue with The Last Jedi was the handling of Luke Skywalker. So if Rian is given control over a completely new group of characters who fans have no prior relations with and don't have any feelings about, now he's allowed to create their stories, and there's no like, oh, you need to handle these characters in a certain way. No, they're Rian's characters. So we'll get to see a different side of Rian Johnson's storytelling, and I think that will be interesting. I'm not going to pass judgment on that until, the project is out. Because even with The Last Jedi, no doubt it's the most divisive Star Wars film. It's my least favorite movie of the sequels. When it came out, I was very unhappy with it. I've come to appreciate a lot of what's in that film, but a lot of people still love The Last Jedi, and that's something that I feel that tons of people on social media neglect. They fail to acknowledge that it's probably actually a majority of Star Wars fans when you take into account all the older people who aren't on social media, younger kids who aren't voicing their opinions about movies, and most of their opinions are probably good. And then there's a lot of people who love the sequels and they're scared to voice their opinions about that because of the hateful stigma around that. There's some really toxic fans out there who, are pretty evil in their approach to sequel fans, and it's really unfair and it's unfortunate, but that's the way it is. My point is that The Last Jedi, regardless of whether or not you like it or whether I like it or not, there's a ton of people who do. So it's important to keep that in mind. But also, on the flip side, I couldn't blame them if they canceled this project and Rian Johnson was never allowed to touch another Star Wars story. Because, a legitimate argument can be made, and it may be correct to say that, Rian Johnson had his shot and he failed. And it's certainly true that regardless of how good his story is, even if he tells the best Star Wars story there's ever been, that first movie, or perhaps even the full trilogy, is going to be held back a little bit by the perception of Rian Johnson, because a lot of fans really, really hate The Last Jedi, and anything Rian Johnson touches, they are not going to be open to. He's really going to have to prove himself and really knock it out of the park in order to regain the respect from Star Wars fans as a whole. Whether that's fair or not is up to the individual. I'll be completely honest with you. I don't actually think Rian Johnson should write another Star Wars trilogy. But it's not because of what I perceive his storytelling capabilities to be. It's because of the toxicity that arose from The Last Jedi and the fact that fans are not going to be open to his story from the get. I get that as time goes on, people will forget who wrote the movies, and that doesn't really matter. So if he tells a good story, cool. But there's going to be a lot of frustration and a lot of anger voiced around the internet in this time when social media dominates the entire landscape of the world, really. People are going to be very hateful, and it's going to be interesting. If the guy can tell a good story and they've got the thing planned out from the beginning, let's just say Rian is paired with Dave Filoni or Jon Favreau, or maybe all three of them work together, and they put together a great story, that would probably be the way to do it, actually. Because if you bring Rian Johnson into this thing and everyone knows that Filoni and Favreau have their hands on it, and then they tell this great story, now Rian Johnson regains his respect, and perhaps even through that, people start to look at The Last Jedi again and think, hey, maybe he handled this correctly. Maybe that wasn't such a bad idea. Maybe not, but at least if he was working alongside Filoni and Favreau, who pretty much all of the fans are very happy with and seem to be very satisfied with all their work, he would be given a fair shot to tell a good story. And that would be a good way to go from my point of view. Again, if he gets the story, cool, I'm fine with that. Like I said, I'll be interested in it. But if not, I understand that too. But yeah, that's it. I just wanted to, get on here and talk about this for a second. I don't have too many thoughts about this outside of that off the top of my head, so I'm gonna end it here. Let me know what you guys think about this down below. Let me know maybe some of the possibilities you could see, where you could see this trilogy going, what you would like to see Rian Johnson write a Star Wars story about, and yeah, your overall feeling on this entire situation. I'm ending it here, so again, thank you guys so much for watching. Please remember to leave a like to support the channel, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and of course, may the Force be with you always.